start with a quote that I found from the CEO of the American Pain Foundation that apparently doesn't exist anymore. But I like what he said about chronic pain. And that was, what I like about Beyond Chronic Pain, which was this book that was written, is that it does look at all aspects of living with pain and understanding and attending to all parts of one's life in order to get better pain care and also to live a more fulfilling life. I won't read the rest because I know that you can see it. But essentially what I liked was this more holistic view about pain management. And it wasn't just looking at the pain, but in fact what innovation would do, which I'll go through, it would flip the idea of focusing on pain and focus rather on wellness. So what is innovation? I've already said it's resourceful, and I think that's the thing that worries me the most is when I go and talk to government or NGOs, they go, oh, you know, it's going to cost a lot of money. It doesn't. The whole tenet of innovation is about being resourceful. It's about being reflective and about being creative. On the other side of it, it is responsive and adaptive, unlike most things that we do. It's collaborative and it's user designed. And I know that Chronic Pain Australia focuses very much on people with chronic pain, which is the end user or user design. It's also disruptive, so it's about flipping. So I wanted to first of all start by celebrating the successes of Chronic Pain Australia. When Coralie asked me, you know, to speak today, I felt very excited but also a little bit out of my depth because I'm not a chronic pain expert. But what I wanted to do is I've been following the Red Bus journey in Queensland and here, and I thought, let's celebrate your successes first. Chronic Pain Australia is a volunteer organisation, so that's already innovative. You provide an information gateway for people suffering chronic pain and people that work for people suffering with chronic pain. You have got innovation in your DNA because you have people like Coralie involved, and I have to confess, I took Coralie to a hackathon. Now, that's a crazy thing, but it's a place where programmers and coders come together and they produce an app or a website within 48 hours. And Coralie brought one of her colleagues from Western Sydney Area Health because I wanted to show them what these kids can do in a really short space of time. Stuff that we can only imagine that in our world, that if we're trying to do it through an agency, it would take 6 years to come up with what these guys do in 48 hours. So what I was really proud of Coralie is that she was happy to get out of her comfort zone of bureaucratic land or health land or whatever and come to this amazing hackathon, which we had 196 people in Sydney participating in it. And Coralie and her colleague Smitha became mentors to a number of groups wanting to develop apps and websites that were consumer-centred. You've got the Big Red Bus. You do cross-sector, so people aren't from one sector that can contribute to this field. I mean, I notice outside you've got people from natural health therapies as well as the medical side of things, which I think is really important. You offer a 24/7 forum, and you certainly know how to use social media. So I'm trying to keep up with Coralie these days now, trying to retweet things that she puts. But all of those things are innovation, and they don't cost a lot of money, actually. So what can Chronic Pain Australia do to take it to the next level? And what I know is that there's definitely a lot out there that we don't know about. And at the end of my presentation, I'm going to give you a list of resources that are available to not-for-profits that you can leverage that most people don't know about. And I've actually only been finding out about them. But for example, NICTA, the National ICT Association, which is based at Australian Technology Park, can take any data set and visualise it. So can you imagine, you just give them a bunch of numbers or surveys and they actually make it really beautiful and digestible so that people can say, oh, they're the issues that are experienced by people with chronic pain and these are the things that we need to do about it. Hackathons, I've kind of mentioned it. I'm trying to convince Coralie to run a hackathon on chronic pain. Let's see if we can't get people with chronic pain to work with programmers and developers and data scientists and designers to come up with something new around how we can address that problem. The thing that you'll find about hackathons as well is they naturally operate on a cross-sector and cross-discipline. So the people that sit in the room are data scientists, designers, programmers and coders. And I'm disrupting even that space by bringing subject matter experts into the room and more content end users in the room. And I think that's important because the programmers don't know what they're doing. They're very good at manipulating data, but they need your understanding to create something that's going to be purposeful for you. There's also these things called meetups. Has anyone heard of meetups? There's an app for that. Okay. So I only discovered them a few months ago, but I decided when I went into that world, it's an app that you download and it tells you every single event that's going on in Sydney, basically, or any particular area. And what you do is you say the things that you're interested in. So I'm interested in technology, I'm interested in social change, blah, blah, blah. And what I found is that every day there were like 10 things going on. So I decided that why can't we use that world of meetups and create that for our purposes? So can you imagine having chronic pain meetups in a particular area where all it is a bunch of people that want to talk about that issue come together once a month, once a week, maybe go and have dinner and share their stories. So some of the groups that I am involved in are walking groups, mental health and wellbeing groups, and things like that. So all you have to do is interpret this stuff that's going on. You don't even have to join that Meetup app, but you can create that concept to support the things that you need. Social innovation pitches. So I fell into the world of startup last year in this quest for innovation. And has anybody heard of a startup pitch event? Has anyone seen Shark Tank on television? Okay, so it's like Shark Tank where you've got a whole bunch of people with a business idea that stand up in a room with investors, so angel investors or venture capital people in the room. And what they will do is they will say, hey, and this is the format. What's the problem? How am I solving it? And what do I need? So all I've done is I've taken that concept and I've taken it to disadvantage because I kept thinking these funding cycles and everything. So if you've got a good idea, Phil, you have to wait until December when there's a funding program for that. And if you're not an NGO, well, tough luck. I'm sorry about that. You're going to have to find an NGO that's going to partner with you to... And I just thought, you know what? Like, the situation is so urgent with the people that we're dealing with. We cannot wait for those processes. So I tried something completely crazy, which is I ran a social innovation pitch event in, of all places, Broken Hill. And I got 3 communities to pitch an idea that would change the social fabric of those communities. And in the audience, I didn't have venture capitalists and I didn't have angel investors, but I had the wider community. So I had 3 levels of government, NGOs, the mining company and the Chamber of Commerce. And you should see like a few hours of this event and the generosity of the community to support good ideas that would generate employment or social enterprise were phenomenal. So I'm going to be trialling that a little bit more. The final sort of innovative model as well is rapid prototyping solutions. So Coralie witnessed this at a hackathon. So we had 196 people attend in Sydney, and within 2 or 3 hours, the majority of people actually didn't come with a team. So say there were 20 people with a team, the other 100 odd did not have a team. By the Friday evening, everyone was teamed up. And by Saturday morning, you didn't know who'd been a team before or not because everybody was melded. And what they do in that 48 hours is they rapid prototype a solution. So they choose a problem, they start working on how they can create a solution, and then they go to the next level, which is, by the end of 48 hours, they've produced a result. So this GovHack, which is a government hackathon, we held in Australia and New Zealand, 2,000 participants in 48 hours produced 400 projects. And honestly, like when I send you the material or Coralie highlights it, you'll be sitting there going, what are our IT people doing in government departments? They've got all of this information, but they don't get the space or the time or whatever, or the volition to do something amazing. So I've tested rapid prototyping as well, and I took it to Partners in Recovery. Has anyone heard of Partners in Recovery? Yeah, really amazing mental health service who's about to lose funding in 12 months' time. So they asked me to run an innovation workshop, and I said to them, okay, well, let's try this rapid prototyping. It works in other parallel paradigms. Let's test it out. Within under 2 hours, they came up with 4 new projects that's going to transform the world of how they manage services that is actually going to be sustainable for those communities when they lose funding. And they couldn't believe it. They actually were quite chuffed that we could do that. I've now gotten repeat work from them to keep developing this idea. But one of the 4 projects that was pitched on that day, They're having their first meeting next week. We just did this a week ago. But what they understood is that our sector, we cannot keep doing things by death through bureaucracy and process. So we have a meeting. And then let's set a task group. Or a think tank. Do you know what? People's lives are dropping while we're having this Tai Chi and cement, attachment to process. So, innovation is a mindset more than anything else. It's about changing the culture within the people that you work with or the community that you operate in, and it's a yes culture. It's also a bit courageous. So I'm a little random here. I'm your disruptor. I've come in from not the chronic pain or health world, but from another world. My view is always bring a disruptor into the space, because what you need is someone without vested interests, because our world is full of vested interests, especially in the health, social welfare. Someone's always got, but actually, did you fill in Form 712? And that's just going to grind things to a halt. So you need someone who's not attached to that process and is a little bit of a disruptor that can come in and give you some clarity. It's time for mavericks to step up to the plate. There's a maverick within each of us, and I think for so long I've worked for other people where I've had to behave. I haven't, but I've tried, and I haven't been able to say the honest truth of what I feel. And since I've left government and ministerial work and I've been able to write blogs about what I really feel, the response has been resounding. But I think I appeal to the maverick inside every person that reads my blogs who goes, you're right, it's not good enough. And I think there's a whole movement of people like Chronic Pain Australia that are saying, this is not okay and this is not good enough and we definitely can do better. So what is disruptive social innovation? Flip the problem. So as I said earlier, rather than focus on the chronic pain, focus on the wellness. So you flip the model. It's about collaborating really broadly. So who else can we collaborate with that we don't see as an immediate, obvious stakeholder? So what I often do is draw these circles and I say, okay, that's us. And then these are the people that we already know. But if you push yourself to think who else has a stake in this, you'll be amazed, because I would say that in fact what you've got is a whole bunch of people in the community that have had shared experience with chronic pain that will be there, including people from the Chambers of Commerce, including people from all sorts of realms that will come on board because they know someone who's had that shared experience or they've had that shared experience. The final thing about disruptive social innovation is leverage the social capital that is all around us. And I've been talking to Coralie about that, and she certainly does it, as you do in Chronic Pain Australia. But for example, Rotary is a major, major force. Chambers of Commerce are a major force. Academia is such an untapped resource, because traditionally in our world we've gone to the usual paradigms or the usual disciplines of physio, psychology, sociology, wellness, health, whatever. Why not social innovation? Why not business? Why not people doing their MBA? Why not bringing people from technology to start helping us in our world? And we have to do that because cross-sector and cross-discipline collaboration is what causes innovation, in my humble opinion. So how do we disrupt chronic pain? You focus on the stories, and I know that you've been doing that anyway. And I think that is the way that you shift it. So focus on the stories of people overcoming pain or not overcoming pain. It doesn't really matter, but we need not to have a faceless community of people dealing with chronic pain, but now a much more vibrant and out there community, because it's those stories that will move, touch and inspire people into action. It will help that young girl in Brewarrina who says, Samantha, you're my hero, because I'm on my own in Brewarrina and I didn't know that this was a normal situation or that I could find other people that shared my story. You have to share your insights, experiences, triumphs, but also the failures. You know, like I think we focus too much on all the positive stuff but not acknowledge the difficulty of, you know, chronic pain and the challenges that happen. So I think it's totally fine to cover all of those issues. Then it's about leveraging the social capital in community. and using social media. And I'll go back to inspire conversations and actions. So the very fact that you might have a young man living in a regional area share his story will set a chain of events that will encourage other people that have the same situation as that person to also start speaking and sharing their stories. So I always look at a parallel paradigm. So who else in a different realm or a different paradigm is someone to aspire to, an organisation to aspire to? So has anybody heard of enabled employment? They're on Facebook. They're really amazing. So they caught my eye on Facebook because all of a sudden they were advertising jobs for people with disabilities that weren't the sheltered workshop. All of a sudden they said things like, hey, we need an auditor for PwC. I was like, hello? An auditor with a disability. Then all of a sudden they started, advertising roles for example, the CEO of an organisation or a lawyer in a major law firm and so on. And I started looking into them going, this is so cool, because my world, I actually worked for the Minister for Ageing and Disability for 3 years, and our world was really focusing on people with intellectual disability, and that became the whole disability employment sector. So it was more like, if I had a mannequin here, I'd give it a cuddle. Oh, please help our people with disability get a job. And it's like what enabled employment has done is completely flipped it and gone, you want this person in your company because they are awesome. So focus on ability. And that's what they've done. They've flipped the model. And it's not a poor me model. It's a, man, have we got the best kick-ass people that you would love to have in your organisation. And they've got the corporates there actually giving them the jobs. So they flip disability into ability. They focus on the gaps as you do. So what hasn't been covered? People overlay on the stuff that's already done ongoingly, and it drives me crazy. There is so much to do. You can always find a gap and fill it, and that's what I love about this sort of work. Social media is really important. I shared a story with Coralie that I've been doing some work out in Far West, and so connectivity is a major problem. I noticed some banter on Twitter where David Thodey, former CEO of Telstra, is going to Israel with James Packer to make Israel digitally included and, set up tech hubs and all of that. So because I'm completely, in Italian there's a word sfacciata, shameless, because I'm completely shameless, I thought, well, I'm going to text, tweet David Thodey and say, David, I'd love you to have your mind to think about how we can get regional and remote Australia digitally included as well for the future of employment. And much to my absolute surprise, he didn't connect with me on Twitter, he didn't reply to my tweet on Twitter. He transferred into LinkedIn and messaged me, gave me his email and said, I'll help you. I'll connect you to the Indigenous team in Telstra. Now, I am a bit of a social media guru in a way, but I've got 1,800 followers, right? There are people on Twitter that have 20,000 followers. So he didn't look at my tweet going, oh, she's important, I might. He knew I wasn't of any particular significance, but I had something important to say that resonated with him. And that's really the power of social media. It's a leveller. You don't have to be famous, you don't have to be important, you don't have to have 10,000 followers to be heard. The other thing is the stories. The stories are going to be your future. Sharing the stories of the pain, of overcoming the pain, of dealing with a system or not dealing with a system are really going to inspire other people. You have to be engaging, innovative and positive. So let's flip the model as these guys have done. Now, you probably can't see that ad, but that is all now they're focusing on hiring ex-veterans. And what they've done, even in this example, this is all over Facebook, they've said, hey, ex-veterans are focused. Ex-veterans have mission. Ex-veterans are skilled analysts and so on. So again, flipping it into what these people can offer your organisation as opposed to, oh, you'd be such a nice person if you please hire someone. Can you see what I mean? It's so inspiring. So these are all the untapped resources. I can't tell you, I'm finding something new every single day. These are mainly for non-profit organisations, though I have to say, if you're a not-for-profit, you can access any of these immediately. But UTS Shopfront, Macquarie Uni and UTS The Big Lift is not necessarily just for not-for-profits. So, for example, Bonojo has got about 300 or 400 corporates on its database, and they match them with small unfunded organisations because they want to show corporates that while it's beautiful that they go, don't even get me started on the CEO sleep out, they raised $10 million. And I'm really annoyed at that because I go, what, we can't solve homelessness in Sydney for $10 million? I think we can. I challenge that we can. But, you know, so what this guy's doing is he's saying to the big big corporates, hey, you know, there are small unfunded organisations. We can definitely introduce Bonojo to Chronic Pain Australia so that the corporates can connect with an organisation that isn't massively funded by government. Global Sisters is a microfinancing for women all over the world, including Australia. That was so grateful for that because you see a lot of microfinancing in India, you know, in third world countries, and thankfully this woman's actually brought it to Australia. So you can get small funds up to about $5,000 or $10,000 to start your small business, and she's doing it here in Australia. Good 360 collect all unused goods from corporates, NGOs and government, and they redistribute them in the community. So perhaps you don't need to buy that printer, or perhaps you don't need to buy that extra computer or so on. Macquarie Uni, I can't say enough about Macquarie University. PACE program is professional and community engagement, and they provide you students and interns from every level of and faculty across the university. But what I want you to know as well is you don't just get undergrads, you get postgraduate students. So I will be one of those people at some point that will say, hey, take me for an internship. So I think we think that it's all undergrads and we get a little bit worried, but it's not. It's a whole world of people that we need to access. I won't go through too many of them, but it just gives you a sense of what's out there that's free, that's available, and that allows you to connect with other people that you then have to think less of what you need to fundraise for yourselves.